Bill, code Bill20 for 20% off. Take control, save money, make America healthy.
Here's a great way to save money on your prescription medications. If you take Viagra or Cialis, we can give you a way to pay as little as $2 a pill. Compare that to prices as high as $60 per tablet. These pills work for men and women to improve their sexual performance. And now for the price of 2 or 3 pills, you can get nearly 100. There's no need to pay expensive prices for Viagra or Cialis. Call now with your prescription and pay as little as $2 a pill. We offer 24/7 service and always free delivery and confidential packaging. Change your life for the better and have fun. Call Pharmacy Shop 24/7 to get generic versions of Viagra or Cialis for as little as $2 a pill, plus free discreet shipping.
800-631-2030. 800-631-2030. 800-631-2030. That's 800-631-2030.
Now, the O'Reilly Update brings you something you might not know. On this day in 1950, President Harry Truman deployed thousands of U.S. soldiers to East Asia. Just a few years after vanquishing the Empire of Japan, America faced a new threat in the Pacific: communism. Here's the story of the Korean War. After the Japanese surrender, the Korean Peninsula was cut in half. The Soviets controlled the north, Americans the south. In 1947, elections were held, but the communists refused to honor elections. The Korean People's Republic, a Marxist state, was established in the north. Russia really ruled it, and puppet dictators expedited the Russian policy. 2 years later, Mao Zedong seized control of China. On June 25th, 1950, 100,000 North Korean troops stormed the South. Harry Truman announced to the world the United States would intervene.
On Sunday, June 25th, communist forces attacked the Republic of Korea. This attack has made it clear beyond all doubt that the international communist movement is willing to use armed invasion to conquer independent nations. An act of aggression such as this, it creates a very real danger to the security of all free nations.
The Korean conflict nearly caused another world war. Chinese soldiers entered the fight in 1951. In retaliation, General Douglas MacArthur wanted to drop nuclear bombs on China. Truman fired him because of MacArthur's insubordination, even though MacArthur was a popular figure when he came back to the USA. For 3 years, American soldiers clashed with the communists. The southern capital of Seoul changed hands 4 times. The Allies dropped more ordnance on Korea than the entire Pacific theater of World War II. The fighting left 3 million civilians dead, 800,000 North Koreans killed in combat, 40,000 Americans perished, another 100,000 wounded. And here's something else you might not know. The Korean War is technically still going on. North and South Korea signed a ceasefire in July 1953, but they have not made friends. Back after this. Crime at an all-time high, so you might already own a firearm, but less lethal options can avoid the financial and mental repercussions of pulling the trigger of a gun. Like Byrna's less lethal launchers, designed to incapacitate attackers with tear gas and kinetic ammunition. Even better, Byrna just announced their all-new compact launcher. It's the same size as a smartphone, fires at 400 feet per second to deliver a hit like a sledgehammer. The compact launcher pairs maximum concealability with maximum force. Plus, more than 80% of its components are sourced right here in the USA and hand-assembled in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Byrna is legal in all 50 states, requires no background checks, can be shipped to your door and trusted by police departments and government agencies worldwide. So please visit Byrna.com today. That's BYRNA.com. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always
looking out for you.
News, analysis, opinion. This is News Talk STL.
Clay, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. The Supreme Court is limiting the power of local courts to issue nationwide injunctions. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
In a 6-3 vote, the High Court's conservative majority handed the Trump administration a major legal victory. The Supreme Court is putting the brakes on district judges who issue nationwide injunctions to stop a president's executive orders. The ruling stems from Donald Trump's order to end automatic birthright citizenship for children of undocumented immigrants. Justices, however, did not specifically rule on birthright citizenship, only on curbing the power of a single judge to block such policies for the entire country. Greg Clugston, the White House.
A lawyer says the Supreme Court's ruling that Maryland parents who have religious objections can pull their children from public school lessons using LGBTQ storybooks is a historic victory for parental rights. Lawyer Eric Baxter says kids shouldn't be forced into conversations about drag queens or gender transitions without their parents' permission. Texas's Attorney General is praising a Supreme Court ruling upholding a state law aimed at blocking children from seeing pornography online. Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton said Friday companies have no right to expose children to pornography and must institute reasonable age verification measures. President Trump says that Iran will have to open up and cooperate with nuclear inspectors.
In Iran. Or somebody that we respect, including ourselves. The war was a tremendous, look, we were talking about this for 30 years, about Iran being nuclear. And all I said is it will not be nuclear, and it's not going to be nuclear.
On Wall Street, the Dow up by 432 points. More at townhall.com.
Big news. Newsmax just went public on the New York Stock Exchange, and millions like you are joining our news revolution. Newsmax is now the 4th highest rated news channel, just behind CNN. Reuters says we're one of the top news brands in America. 40 million Americans go to Newsmax for shows with Rob Schmidt, Greta Van Susteren, Rob Finnerty, and more. So download our free Newsmax app on your smartphone or TV and start watching. President Trump says Newsmax is truly terrific. Get the free Newsmax app and check out Newsmax shares on the stock exchange. Go to newsmaxinvest.com. That's newsmaxinvest.com. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities, nor shall there be any sale of securities in any jurisdiction in which such an offer would be unlawful.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Watch for some heavy downpours, some flooding and ponding on roadways, certainly possible because of the heavy nature of some of this rain. It'll start to slide east-southeast by late evening, but through at least early evening, be prepared for some downpours scattered across the area. Then overnight, we dry things out, a low of 76, but a chance for a few storms tomorrow. Lower chance, though, 30% chance for an isolated downpour, a high of 92, heat index to 98. And then on Sunday, up to 60% chance for some of these scattered storms and a high of 90. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my good friend Harry Parker and the ultimate seafood dining experience at Gulf Shores, GulfShoresRestaurantAndGrill.com. Gulf Shores offering a unique dining experience with a vast, mouth-watering menu of all of your favorite delicious dishes, something for everyone's taste or palate. 3 convenient locations, Edwardville, Creve Coeur, and St. Peter's. Dine in, carry out. They've got a food truck, too. Friendly staff looking forward to seeing you, making your dining experience one you will remember. Gulf Shores Restaurantandgrill.com.
Hey, it's Vic. If you have a tree that you think is dead, you can get Roots Plus to remove it for you. Or
if you think the tree is savable, or if Roots Plus thinks it's savable, they can save your tree and you keep your cash. Call them and find out what that's all about at 314-440-3662. The crews are great. They get things done. They removed the tree for me, and they did expert work, and I definitely will put my name on their company. So save the tree with Roots Plus LLC. RootsPlusLLC.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
This morning, the Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch. The Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what they've done. And we've been hit with more nationwide injunctions than were issued in the entire 20th century together. Think of it, more than the entire 20th century,
Many monumental decisions were handed down by the Supreme Court today. We'll talk about those in a minute. And as Mike Myers once famously said, saucer of milk, table for two. We had a cat fight come out of one of the judicial opinions where 2 of the justices were sparring with a war of the words. Welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Chris, I will do my best to be your legal eagle today because I bet you have several questions about, and I have several questions about some of these cases. There was a slew of hand-downs today because this is the last Friday in June. I think the Supreme Court members, the justices and their clerks want to skip town and head out early for the Independence Day weekend holiday next weekend. So, yeah, let's have at it.
Yeah, I did read that there's going to be another couple of decisions that are going to be meted out next week. So they still have a little more work to do. But I think the president hit it directly on the target with this statement. I mean, you want an example of lawfare? This is it. I mean, more injunctions against President Trump than had been in the previous century. And I thought it was always strange to me. How can a district judge somewhere halfway across the country rule on something that affects the entire country? And I'm glad that the Supreme Court justices today, 6-3 decision, which you'd expect. I'm glad that they curtailed some of the power of these district judges. It's something that needed to be done.
Indeed. It was a big week for those of us who believe in constitutional originalism and the plain letter and text of the law. Not only that injunction ruling, which Trump described as monumental, and I think you have to say it is, because even if you're a detractor, you have to say it is, because that's what the left was using the last 7 months to try to curtail his power. Over 350 cases currently pending. I loved listening to Susie Moore this morning with Nick Schroer, two lawyers talking law, talking stuff, but they really did boil it down. So I think everybody could understand what was going on with that. There was also the Texas case we discussed yesterday. The Texas law upheld blocking minors from online pornography. And Chris, in a case for parental rights, we've seen many of these over the last few years. And if there was one silver lining that came out of the COVID years, it was the fact that parents had lost a lot of their rights. And so they have tried to reinstitute those. Maryland, of all places, the parents in Maryland are now able to have their children skip LGBTQ books in schools.
Yeah, this is a huge win for parental rights. We've seen those rights being eroded over the years where A school counselor can advise your child on having an abortion, can advise them on other medical procedures, on transitioning without the parents' knowledge. For parents now to be able to opt their kids out of this LGBTQ indoctrination is a huge, huge thing. And I wish it would have happened 30 years ago when this whole movement started. It's what started it when it was the book in the Boston School District. I have two mommies and two daddies. And a father of a kindergarten wanted to opt his child out of learning about that, and he couldn't. And that's what really started probably the road towards this decision in the Supreme Court today.
Doesn't it show also how far we've slipped, that we had to go all the way to the Supreme Court to reaffirm the rights of parents into what their children can be presented with?
Yeah, and it's because the culture now gives everyone rights. Even your child has a right to transition into quote unquote another sex, even if they are a minor, and that decision should be left up to the parents. Everyone has rights now. Trees have rights, animals have rights, children have rights.
Mm-hmm.
It's the left's
their version of rights. Because
Exactly.
of course, I would push back and say these are not rights that are either handed down by God or in our Constitution. These are not inalienable rights, right? Those were the words of our founders. I know that's a weird word in today's modern parlance, but what they meant by inalienable was it's one that humankind cannot prevent. They've always been there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all humankind has done is put them down as words on paper. These are God-given natural rights. And because the left largely doesn't believe in a higher power, then they believe that rights are malleable.
Mm-hmm.
They're changeable. They can just be whatever the current fad of the day is. That's what the rights are. And as you said, we'll give them to plants, rocks, trees, birds, and bees as well.
Yeah, and I think the question most of us non-lawyers have, this case, of course, stemmed from Donald Trump taking away birthright citizenship, trying to get rid of it. This case was not specifically ruled. The justices did not specifically rule on that. They ruled on the injunctions instead. But what's the next step on this, Tim, regarding the birthright citizenship? Because this judge can't rule. They've ruled that this district judge can't rule on that. Does this mean that Trump's order to deny birthright citizenship stands until it's appealed?
It means I think I'd have to read the full opinion and what they basically decided at the end. But what I think they're going to do is say you can't use the injunctive relief, but you do need to now proceed with the case on its merits. So we're not going to allow one district court judge to issue an injunction, a temporary injunction that doesn't rule on the merits. What they're going to have to do now, Chris, I think what they'll do is they'll hand it back to the lower court and they'll say, there's no injunction, but go ahead and proceed with the case on its merits. That's what we used to do back in the old days, right? Lower district court has a ruling. And if that's at odds with a different district court, then a lot of times those are the cases that go up to the appellate court. And if there's a split in the appellate courts, those are the cases that eventually make it to the Supreme Court. So what the Supreme Court is saying is, we're not just going to let you call time out on every single thing that the president does. If you have a problem with it, that's fine. We're not going to let you do an injunction. We will consider cases on the merits. But in the meantime, these executive orders by the president are going to go ahead and go into effect. Listen to what Amy Coney Barrett wrote in response to Ketanji Brown Jackson's dissent in that case. Barrett said, where's her quote here? Where's her quote? Oh, yeah. Jackson, I'm sorry. I had it a second ago. Hang on one second here. Oh, here it is. Amy Coney Barrett said, we will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, referring to the dissent, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself. We only observe this, and here's where the kill shot came in. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. Wow. Fighting words up there on the Supreme Court.
They are, and usually you don't hear justices address each other directly like that. I think that's the thing that makes it so striking. Definitely a change, a difference in opinion there. One case, Tim, that we didn't get to yesterday was the big pro-life case in South Carolina that said that states now don't have to have to fund Planned Parenthood.
Yes.
And this came out of a case where women were suing women on Medicaid were suing the state because they wanted as their medical provider Planned Parenthood, which seemed weird to me. It seems, look, if you were on the public assistance getting your medical care, the people that the state provides is who provide you your medical care. You can't sue and say, oh, I don't want these providers, I want Planned Parenthood. Always seemed kind of strange to me, but ruled yesterday that can't happen. They cannot sue to have Planned Parenthood as their healthcare provider. So in effect, states do not have to fund Planned Parenthood.
Mm-hmm. As it should be, because it is a distinction with a huge difference. Here's the point. And this is where the left likes to throw all these arguments into one barrel and say, you're either pro women's health care or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the distinction. You have to put aside the argument of pro-life versus pro-abortion. This is whether or not you and I, Joey, the man in the moon, should be forced to have our taxpayer dollars used for healthcare services for abortion, right? That's the difference. And that is an 80% issue, actually. Even people who tend to be more pro-abortion will also then maybe grudgingly admit taxpayer funds should not be used for abortive services.
Yeah, and that's a law. That's a federal law, the Hyde Act, which was named after a former congressman in Illinois, that federal funds could not be used for abortions or to pay for abortions overseas. And that has been something that's been around for a long time, probably about 30 plus years now.
Indeed. Welcome to the big program today, Big Friday program. We got a big Friday show for you. We're jam-packed with guests to help take you into the weekend. Chris, we just got an email from Grover Norquist guy asking if he's on a little bit of a delay.
Mm-hmm.
Could we do Chris's Corner next at 4:25 and have Grover at 4:45?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So we're going to do a little switcheroo there. We're, of course, going to keep everything in the same block, but we'll have Chris's Corner next around 4:25-ish. And then around 4:40-ish, we will have Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform. He's a very busy bee up on Capitol Hill because he's been monitoring the One Big Beautiful Bill. Chris, this thing has been in great transition this week. I know Grover will be able to provide us all of the latest and most recent details about the One Big Beautiful Bill and where it is in the process in the Senate.
Yeah, it's the hospital provider tax and the SALT tax. Those are the two hangups. If that's modified any further in the Senate, it's not going to pass in the House. President Trump had yesterday a ceremony at the White House touting all of the things in the Big Beautiful Bill. I've read in some of the political publications that this weekend he's going to start putting pressure on some of these holdouts because he wants that July 4th deadline to be met.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed he does. So we will have, what are we going to talk about in
we're going to talk about
today?
Congress, House and Senate. There are other things going on besides the Big Beautiful Bill.
There are.
We're going to talk about some legislation that is pending and some pretty good legislation, I think.
Very good. People may be surprised by that. Chris's Corner, focus on the Hill, next at 4:25. And as we just said, Grover Norquist will be joining us around 4:45. He's going to bring us up to speed on the One Big Beautiful Bill, what parts of it are at risk, what parts of it are looking good, and so on and so forth. Special edition, we hope, of the Speaker Stump Speech today. Congressman Bob Onder is, we believe, in an airplane heading back to Missouri right now. If he lands in time, we will have him as the feature of the Speaker Stump Speech. I get off the hook a little bit today, so he will be the Speaker Stump Speech. If not, I'll have to make something up on the fly. There's plenty to talk about, but hopefully we'll have the good congressman on. And Chris, speaking of pro-life issues, Bob Onder was appointed the pro-life caucus co-chair.
Excellent.
Pretty nice honor for a first-term congressman.
It is, and it's no secret that Congressman Dr. Bob Onder is very pro-life and has made that a cornerstone of his career, and I think it's a fitting honor for him to co-chair this caucus.
He also has introduced. He's also been a busy beaver up there, introducing lots of great legislation. He introduced a new bill. I think we've talked about the fact that Bob is a practitioner of general aviation. He is a instrument-rated licensed pilot. I've flown with him a few times. He's very good. I don't know what this is about at all, so we'll have to find out. He's introduced the Pilot and Aircraft Privacy Act. The acronym is PAPA. I like that, PAPA. It limits the use of ADSB data. I'll be honest, I don't know what that means. So there you have it.
Tracking data.
Probably so. So that'll be hopefully the Speaker Stump Speech at 5:07. At 5:25, we have a Joey, I think, new friend of the show. I don't think, have we had this guy on before?
We did have Dr. James S. Robbins on once before with Chris by himself. We were talking about the anniversary of the fall of Saigon in Vietnam.
Okay.
Okay.
So he's back.
He's back and he's smarter than ever, apparently. He's got Iran figured out.
Dr. James Robbins, I'm excited to speak with him, and he'll be back with us today. The Dean of Academics at the Institute of, that sounds very important, at the Institute of World Politics. We'll be discussing the ongoing developing situation in Iran, what that means for the future, hopefully a limited one, of the theocratic regime there, and what he thinks about the operation, what was it called? Operation Midnight Hammer, right?
Enduring Lion, I think it was.
No, the American one.
I don't know.
Was it
Midnight Hammer, yeah.
Midnight Hammer. And the Israeli one was...
Chris only cares about the one that he saw.
Exactly.
He saw that one
that
live.
I lived through.
He lived through that one. Rising Lion, right? Indeed. And then the moment everybody's been waiting for. This was the longest tease of, I think, the show ever. Joey, we've been talking all week about the fact that you're going to review not just one, but two movies in the 5:45 segment.
And we're going to add those two scores together, and it may be better than a 5 out of 5. We'll see.
Oh, wow. That's a good
It could be a
tease.
6 out of 5. We'll see.
We will see
Not good
as well. It's the official, we are officially in the summer months now. And Chris, there was some good news today that the New York Times grudgingly had to report on. This is an actual New York Times headline. You're not going to believe this. Summer gas prices have not been this low since 2021. The New York Times actually printed that.
Yeah.
Hurrah for them.
Yeah, gas prices are low, and part of that is because prior to the dust up in the Middle East, the Saudi Arabians and OPEC had agreed to pump more oil that was really necessary. So there was already kind of a world glut on the market already. You've got the turmoil over there in the Middle East, and good for those of us who are traveling over the summertime in our car.
Indeed. And the market closed near an all-time high today, up another 432 points, and the NASDAQ was up as well. So I'll tell you what, these are the peace dividends possibly from what we've saw this week in the Middle East. 4:22 in the PM. When we come back, we'll have Chris's Corner, followed by Grover Norquist, President of Americans for Tax Reform, around 4:45 today. All of that is straight ahead on a Friday edition of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show with producer Joey V. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Baby, I'm not fooling. I'm gonna send you back to school.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
I feel the need for speed.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm Personal Report Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Watch for some heavy downpours, some flooding and ponding on roadways, certainly possible because of the heavy nature of some of this rain. It'll start to slide east-southeast by late evening, but through at least early evening, be prepared for some downpours scattered across the area. Then overnight, we dry things out, a low of 76, but a chance for a few storms tomorrow. Lower chance, though, 30% chance for an isolated downpour, a high of 92, heat index to 98. And then on Sunday, up to 60% chance for some of these scattered storms and a high of 90. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey, it's Vic, and I'm here with Kathy Connor at Connor Roofing. Kathy, what makes Connor Roofing different?
Hey, Vic. I'm glad that you asked. I think that what really sets Connor Roofing apart is our relationship with our customers. It's very important to us to develop that trust with the homeowner. This is what has allowed us to serve our friends and our neighbors in the St. Louis area for 30 years. Whether we are doing a roof or a gutter repair or even a full replacement, you can count on Connor for quality service and workmanship.
Thanks, Kathy. To find out more, visit them at connorroofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
Looking to celebrate the 4th of July with a bang? Then look no further than Powder Monkey Fireworks in Walden Springs. We've got bottle rockets, fountains, cakes, mortars. Our selection is endless with low prices and no gimmicks. We will not be undersold. Our friendly, knowledgeable staff will help you choose the perfect fireworks to make your holiday unforgettable. You'll go bananas at Powder Monkey. Don't want to fight the crowds? Order online at powdermonkeyfireworks.com. Powder Monkey Fireworks in Walden Springs.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros, your all-in-one gutter service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. We discovered Gutter Pros a few years ago when we bought our home and inherited a gutter issue that was on the road to becoming a potentially big problem, but thanks to Gutter Pros was stopped before causing any major damage. They've also repaired the siding on our home because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros are also the best for siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros can help your home at gutterpros.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 2 times every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. You could also reach Doug at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too, until I called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or stlwindowsanddoors.com.
News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
This is the ultimate codification of our agenda.
Republicans are scrambling to pass President Donald Trump's sweeping domestic policy legislation by his self-imposed deadline. That's after the Senate parliamentarian called for revisions. GOP leaders say they hope the Senate can rework the bill and pass it this weekend. After that, it would still have to go back to the House, and Trump wants to sign it by Independence Day.
We'll deliver a record tax cut, a record spending cut, a record investment in border security.
427 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and there you have it, the big, beautiful bill. If you listen to that report, it's in peril. I wouldn't exactly call it in peril, Tim. You have been in the legislative process. You know how the sausage works. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of compromise that goes on. I want to ask you this. One thing that is being thrown about in the Senate, the parliamentarian, of course, ruled on some of the items within the big, beautiful bill, said it didn't fall within reconciliation. There is talk on overruling her. I mean, she is kind of the referee, but ultimately she works for the Senate, and they can do that. But the Democrats and many Senate historians are saying that's a nuclear option, and it's something that the Democrats could possibly use in the future. What's your thoughts as a former Speaker of the House, overruling a parliamentarian?
Yeah, it's not usually a road you want to go down because, as you said, it opens the door then for everyone to use that as an excuse to abuse the process. Maybe they just need to get a new parliamentarian at some point, like let this go by the wayside. And if this parliamentarian is biased in some way, and I don't know who this person is or what, but I've heard some people speculate that this parliamentarian may be not an objective referee, but we don't have the reconciliation process on the state level, but we do have parliamentarians, right, that usually aren't ruling on such major catastrophic or important issues like this. They're usually ruling on things like points of order, which kind of is related because someone will say, well, your discussion is not germane to this topic, or sometimes people will make a point of order and say that amendment is not appropriate for that bill. So, semi-related, but the reconciliation process, unfortunately, right, with the polarization we have in Washington, D.C., it's one of the few ways you can get any sort of legislation done these days, but it is we're now seeing how limited it can be.
We talked about yesterday, there are a group of senators that want to delay any cuts in Medicaid. They're worried about that vote back home. We know that this bill is going to change. The Senate is going to change it. It's not going to be the same as it goes back to the House. Many House members have said that is unacceptable to them. Tim, do you ultimately think, because we know who the 400-pound gorilla is in the room here, Donald Trump, he holds a lot of sway. He has a lot of money in his pack and can really pressure the folks back home. Do you think ultimately these people have the cojones to hold out and not have the president pass this bill and be blamed for one of the biggest tax increases in history if this is not passed?
Yeah, that's the thing, Chris, too. It's beyond the politics of it. People are going to have a real world wake-up call, right, next year. Wouldn't this be horrible? The last thing the Republican Party would want going into what's always a tough midterm reelection is then everybody to realize, wait a minute, my taxes just went up $5,000. I mean, that would be a 1-2 deadly punch. I do think with Trump riding so high right now on the international stage, I mean, look, he looks like he's king of the world right now. Next week may bring a whole different story, but right now he's riding pretty high. As you said, he comes with a lot of political cachet. He has a lot of political power. And a lot of people want him to succeed, right? And because Republicans know if Trump succeeds, they succeed. Maybe next year's not as bad as it normally is. I think it gets done. And it may not be everything that they wanted, but you know how this works. They'll get it done, and then they'll declare victory on the parts that did get across the finish line.
You know, the big, beautiful bill has taken up so much political oxygen these last few months, which it should. This is a huge endeavor going through the reconciliation process, having slim majorities in both houses. There's going to be a lot of give and take going on, of course. But I'd like to know what is on the agenda after this. You know, the country has a lot of needs. Deficit needs to be looked at, of course. I know, they still have to do the spending bills. The 13 spending bills are coming up. That hasn't been done in 30 years, whatever. I guess that's probably the next thing that we're looking at is a government shutdown.
Yeah.
It's almost like deja vu again.
I know. And, I know you and I were both a little skeptical of our guest we had yesterday talking about the Independent Center. But that gentleman had a really good point, didn't he? People are really getting frustrated with both parties and their inability to do the one thing they're supposed to do, and that's pass a budget. And he asked us yesterday, how many budget bills has this Congress done? And we were like, probably very few. He said none.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, they need to do that. And, to their defense, the House has passed a lot of legislation, right? We've talked to Congressman Bob Onder every Friday since he was elected almost. And he's passed a lot of bills. Eric Burleson's passed a lot of bills, a lot of other people. The Senate seems to just look, they don't have 60 votes in the Senate. And so on everything except reconciliation, they're kind of stuck in the mud. But it'd be nice if maybe they could woo a few people like Fetterman and others to maybe get some stuff going in the Senate, because it just seems like there's little of nothing going on over there.
And I think what we've seen in the Senate, and the senators have gotten used to it, is what happens is they miss the deadline for the 13 bills and end up having the omnibus bill where they just throw on everything. They call it a Christmas tree. Everybody gets their little pork and goodies that they want, and then it's passed. I mean, it's been done like that for years. How you break that impasse, I think, is the big question, because Chuck Schumer, minority leader, he doesn't want anything being passed by Republicans. He wants to have as much leverage as he can by holding out to the end and saying, well, if you want Democratic votes, we need this, and the whole process starts over again.
Yeah, we've talked about a lot of things in the bill, that in the reconciliation bill, that everybody wants to try to take a stab at for the first time in forever, like the Medicaid reform and all that. But let's remember, where did this bill start? Three things, right? They wanted to provide tax relief and make the tax cuts permanent. They wanted to do something on the border. I think the border security funding will be in there. And they wanted to do something on American energy. So I think what they're going to have to do is I think they got a little over their skis and they thought, okay, we'll put some more stuff in there. We're going to go big or go home. A lot of that has been peeled back. If they can go back to the three big things they said at the beginning of the year they wanted to do, tax cuts, energy production, and border security, they can still declare victory in all those three of those areas.
Yeah, but you go back to SALT, you have the New Jersey, California, New York Republicans, like $40,000, which is a lot of money when you look at the adds up. That's really throws their numbers out of whack. And then, this whole Medicare provider tax thing, I don't know how it's going to be resolved. Trump is going to make sure it's resolved. It's just a question of what type of promises are going to be made to resolve that. Because Josh Hawley seems pretty adamant about this is something that he is standing for. And tell me this, Tim. Senator Hawley seems to have gone towards a more populist bent. We understand that. But with Missouri voters a few years ago approving Medicaid or expansion of Medicaid and all that, and I'm looking at this objectively, is Hawley basically saying, I'm trying to protect Missouri too, because if this is cut, Missouri's budget is going to be in a serious world of hurt, and I'm looking out for my Missouri constituents, Missouri state government. Can he say that why he's doing that?
He can say that, but I'm not sure celebrating our expansion as a welfare state is something to write home about. Maybe that's what he's basically. But
what is he saying? What if he's saying? And I'm not making this point. I'm playing devil's advocate.
That's a great point.
What if he's
that's
saying?
My response.
What if he's saying? Look, Tim, it's already passed. The voters have passed for it. That horse is out the barn, is down the road now. If we don't do something to keep this tax in here, it's going to be a huge burden on Missouri.
Right. But what he's advocating for is a further expansion of the welfare state. He's saying we can't touch it at all.
Right.
We should do no reforms to it. That's not republicanism. Josh Hawley is embracing some new, bizarre, socially conservative, fiscally liberal populism. And I guess if he has a challenge, we'll see who ends up being right. But it's not Reagan republicanism at all.
Is he seeking the expansion of Medicaid if he's just saying just keep it the way that it is? I don't know if he's necessarily saying expansion. I think he's just saying keep the status quo.
In my opinion, he's protecting a broken system in need of reform. And if he wants to protect a broken system that is in need of reform, that's his prerogative. I totally disagree with him.
Do you see a challenge for Josh Hawley
5 years from now?
Yeah.
I don't know. It would take an awful lot. Some well-funded conservative would have to decide to. Let me tell you this though.
Jack Danforth may be happy to fund someone.
Well,
even
I don't know.
Even though it may be conservative, I don't know if he'd want to fund someone conservative.
I don't know where Danforth is now on Hawley.
But he detests Hawley now, so I think he would.
Well, does he? Because he did, but then maybe he doesn't. You remember he loved him, then he didn't like him around January 6th. Maybe he likes him again. I don't know.
I don't know.
I haven't heard from Danforth lately. I guess he's still around. But it's an interesting look. I will tell you this though. I have heard from many, many, many conservative groups out of Washington, D.C. who helped Josh Hawley get to where he is, like the Federalist Society, like the National Right to Work people, like the people that want to see tax cuts and him not hamstringing this bill. They're not happy with him, and they have very deep pockets. So if they find somebody that's attractive and they want to fund them, he could have a primary. He could.
All right, Joey, let's do a little Chris's Corner and catch up on some more House, Senate, Congress news.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
WhatsApp, the popular application which we use to get home from Israel, is now banned on House staffers' work devices. They say it's a high risk to users due to the lack of transparency in how it protects user data. WhatsApp, is that a Chinese company?
I don't know. A good question.
Republicans are lining up behind a bill that would take guns out of the hands of the federal tax collectors The bill would prohibit the IRS from buying, receiving, or storing firearm and ammunition. Check this out. The IRS, the agency, has spent $10 million on ammunition since 2020. According to this source, can't see it. The legislation would also require the IRS to sell off all guns it already has from licensed dealers, and the bill would require the IRS to transfer Criminal Investigations Division to the Department of Justice. Since 2006, the IRS has spent $35 million on guns, ammunition, and military-style equipment, according to an investigation by the nonprofit Open the Books, a spending watchdog. The IRS spending $35 million on ammunitions and guns. That should scare everybody to death. A bipartisan group of members of the House with competing bills to ban congressional stock trading are privately working together to craft a consensus bill. Lawmakers in the group generally agree that the ban should extend to lawmakers' spouses and dependents, but the main issue they're trying to resolve is how to penalize members who don't abide by the ban. But past proposals have ranged from hefty fines to Justice Department referrals, all of which drew up. Also trying to figure out how to handle members who come into Congress owning stocks. And of course, we know that Nancy Pelosi is one of the main people that has made this a law. She has and her husband have done a lot of insider trading, allegedly, and it became famously wealthy because of that. We know that little Dick Durbin, and that's what Mark Levin calls him, is not running for re-election in Illinois. And so one of the congressmen there, Raja Krishnamurthy, I've heard of him before. He's a kind of a backbencher, but he has raised $1 million for the Illinois open seat bid. Of course, in Illinois, it's going to take probably 20 times that, but pretty strong start from him. He also has more than $19 million already in the bank. And Senator Tammy Duckworth, she is endorsing Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, who is African American. She also has the support of Governor J.B. Pritzker. And I think that Joey is working on getting us a Republican candidate for U.S. Senate who is an African American female. And June Schmidt, North County Republican organization, sent that over to me. She spoke to their club, and Joey's working on getting her on the show. So, we're an equal opportunity radio station. Give everybody a chance. And we have listeners on the Illinois side. We do. And that is Chris's Warner.
Chris, why does the IRS have a standing army?
I don't know. I mean, Jesus. And, they probably kick in people's doors at 6 o'clock in the morning because you've got to lean on your business or something. But that is kind of strange. Why do they? I guess, does the IRS raid drug dealers' homes and stuff? Do they need?
There's a big list of hardware you rattled off there.
Exactly. All right, we got Mr. Norquist at 4:45.
We do.
All right, President of Americans for Tax Reform, and then we'll have 5:07, the Speaker's stump speech with Congressman the good Dr. Bob Onder. At 5:24, Dr. James Robbins, Dean of Academics at the Institute of World Politics. We'll talk to him about the Middle East. And at the end of the show, Joey's going to have not one, but two movie reviews. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
What hit him? There's some pimps in their graves and blew those pimps away. There's a girl that's so fine with stars in her eyes. Who did you love and who loved her?
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Watch for some heavy downpours, some flooding and ponding on roadways, certainly possible because of the heavy nature of some of this rain. It'll start to slide east-southeast by late evening, but through at least early evening, be prepared for some downpours scattered across the area. Then overnight, we dry things out, a low of 76. But a chance for a few storms tomorrow. Lower chance, though, 30% chance for an isolated downpour, a high of 92, heat index to 98. And then on Sunday, up to 60% chance for some of these scattered storms and a high of 90. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Is the administrative state going to succeed in tanking the so-called big, beautiful bill? Congressman Bob Onder is going to update us on that Monday at 7:35.
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that could derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the all-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine-in or carry-out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a steakhouse. We're a tradition.
Jamie Allman here for O'Fallon Family Floors. Experience the passion. Oh, yeah. You can go in and see the best variety, the best pricing, the best quality, the best personalized service right there off of Highway K in O'Fallon, or you can have the store come to you. Oh, yeah. Brian and his team take great pride in running a fantastic flooring outlet, and you can get their 5-star ratings right there on Google. Just check it out. It's O'Fallon Family Floors, O'FallonFamilyFloors.com. Hey, Jamie Allman here for Patriot Heating and Cooling. When your home's comfort is on the line, you need a team you can trust. That's why I recommend Patriot Heating and Cooling, St. Louis's trusted team of HVAC experts. These pros make customer service their #1 priority, whether it's a summer breakdown or a winter emergency. Booking your service couldn't be easier. Just visit callpatriothvacstl.com or call 314-527-2722. Patriot Heating and Cooling. Comfort every day, the Patriot way.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Senator, what does this weekend really entail?
We have cussed and discussed and rediscussed. We need to start voting. Everybody needs to adult real hard, and the jackassery has to stop. I have encouraged John and Mike to tell everyone, look, we're going to start voting tomorrow at noon. If you're not happy, offer an amendment. We'll have a full amendment process.
448 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. And if I didn't know any better, Tim, I think Senator Kennedy is suffering what they call jet fumes there in D.C. Sounds like he's ready to start a summer vacation, and let's start the votes tonight if we can. Let's get out of here.
He's ready to rock and roll and head out of town.
It is. All right. On the line with us, friend of the show, Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform. Mr. Norquist, welcome back to the show.
Good to be with you. I do think we will have the votes very soon, starting tomorrow, and we will just have lots and lots and lots of amendments. The Democrats don't like the lower taxes on all Americans that is in this bill. They don't like the doubling of the per-child tax credit that is in this bill. They want to take away most of what you have now for a per-child tax credit. They want to reduce the standard deduction that protects the first dollars that you owe from that you earn from taxes. They don't like the idea of having faster depreciation expensing on new business investment, which creates jobs because then people aren't dependent on government.
Grover, does Senator Kennedy there have a point that at some point you just need to ask people, especially Republicans, whether or not they support the main provisions of the bill, the lower taxes, the border security, the energy? There's probably at least 51 Republicans that are going to vote yes if the question is called, right, to Kennedy's point.
Yes. No, this will pass the Senate. This will pass the House. There will be people. There are many things in this bill, and there are many things that people could, I wish this was in it or that. It's all moving in the right direction. And you could say, well, I wish there was more savings. Well, so do I. I wish there was more tax cuts. Well, so do I. Is this as much as we can get under the present very narrow margins we have in the House and the Senate? Senator Hawley, your senator from Missouri, has been out demanding higher taxes on people, for crying out loud. He doesn't like all the tax cuts in the bill. He's probably the least supportive of the president right now of all the people voting. So hopefully we may lose his vote on some of this stuff, or he may fall in line. But he's been writing op-eds in the Washington Post about we should raise taxes. To hell with that. To heck with that. That is ridiculous. But the good news is the United Republican Party is not where Hawley is on taxes and labor union bosses being friends. They are where the president is on lower taxes for everybody and protecting workers from abuse.
This Norquist, the White House is making the case that the American people voted for the policies in the big, beautiful bill, and that a Senate parliamentarian should not be the one to stop the American people from receiving the things that they vote for. Many are calling for her to be overruled by the Senate Republicans. Your overall thoughts on that, sir?
Well, the president's half right on that. We do want to pass the bills that the president campaigned on, that the House and Senate people campaigned on. Every Republican campaigned on cutting taxes, not raising taxes, on reducing spending, not increasing spending. And that's what's in this bill, and we need to make that happen. Here's the challenge we do have. This process that we're going through, the reconciliation process, says you avoid a filibuster. So the Democrats can't filibuster this bill. It's a special kind of bill. And because it's a special kind of bill, it's limited only to budget questions. You can't change the law without passing through the filibuster, 60-vote majority. And we want the filibuster to protect us when the Democrats come in, or they would take away the right of workers, all the rights of workers, and hand them all over to the labor union bosses. They want to get rid of right to work. They want to tell the union bosses can force everybody to pay union dues as much as they want and not be able to leave a union and be forced into a union if they never voted for the union. They would do that in a second if they could get rid of the filibuster. So we don't want to damage the filibuster. This says for budget questions, we're going to spend, how much are we spending on popsicles? More or less, okay? That you can decide with a single vote. And this is particularly focused on entitlements. So it allows you to reform entitlements. It allows you to cut taxes permanently. And I do share the president's frustration that on some of these issues, I think they are clearly budget questions. And I question why the parliamentarian argues differently. That said, when the parliamentarian disagrees with the Republicans, we have come back again and again and said, look at it from this perspective, look at it from this perspective. And we have been in a position where we've been able to get things across the finish line where they said no the first time, but then said yes the second or third time. And on the big issue, which was, are we going to use present law, which means you'd have to revote every tax cut starting from scratch, which is ridiculous. And if you wanted to cut taxes $1 billion, you'd have to raise them somewhere else $1 billion. That doesn't do you any good. We said, no, we're using present policy, meaning the Trump tax cuts are there, and we're going to continue them and make them permanent. So that was a big win. And they did signal to the parliamentarian, if you have a problem with that, we will override you.
Grover, is there any hope for any bipartisan support of any of these ideas, which are mostly very rational, sane, and good for the American people? No. So the era.
You don't have to finish that sentence.
None at all, huh? Wow.
No, there are no sane Democrats on the big issues of taxes and spending. Every once in a while, some of them sometimes oppose crime. Or Fetterman,
yeah,
the guy from. Every once in a while, he's against riots and things like that. A bold position for a Democratic senator to take. Everybody else thinks he's weird. All the Democrats think he's gone crazy, but not on the big ticket items. He wouldn't help us have a pro-growth tax cut.
Ms. Norquist, speaking of weird Democrats, your overall thoughts on New York Democratic voters choosing Ron Dahmy, the Democratic socialist, as possibly the next mayor of the Big Apple?
I think it's a great idea. It will encourage more people to move out of New York.
Yeah,
and it reminds the American people how crazy the Democratic Party is, and that's where the press lives. And so they're going to have to report the things he does. And if he really does the things he wants the government to set up grocery stores, to run grocery stores. This is what the Soviet Union did. This was East Germany. This was Bulgaria. It didn't work well. Governments don't run grocery stores very well. And then you subsidize them. And then really going to have government workers run a grocery store?
And
Why don't
Grover,
we try and see if they could do the post office first?
and Grover, you've explained this many times. Florida, New York. I think Florida finally has surpassed New York in population.
Yes.
And you've also explained the difference in their budgets versus their spending, and it's amazing, right? It's like twice as much. Same population, budgets are similar, but yet New York spends twice as much, right, and doesn't get twice as good of services.
Yeah. For roughly the same number of people, New York spends twice as much per capita, twice as much per person as Florida does. Now the roads are just as good in Florida. The schools are just as good. What do you get for spending twice as much in New York? You have got more government workers, higher paid government workers who work fewer hours every day, fewer days every month, fewer years during a career. That's what you get. You get people who work less and get paid more and cannot be fired. They're paying for an aristocracy.
Ms. Norquist, we got about a minute and a half left. What are you guys working at ATR.org right now, Americans for Tax Reform?
Well, we are very happy we've been very active in trying to make sure that tax increases didn't slip into this bill, that we've got as much spending restraint as we can, that the bill is as pro-growth as it is and permanent as it is. Very important to make it permanent, not temporary. Looking forward, we're looking for the next time there's one of these reconciliation bills, which will be in November, because there are a lot of tax cuts and spending restraint that we need to add in now. We get this bill done, we go forward to November and do it again. We do more, better, and that's the exciting thing, is that there are two more bites at the apple, one in November and one in the spring before the 2026 election, where we'll be able to actually reduce taxes more and rein in spending more.
And that is the one and only Grover Norquist, president of Americans for Tax Reform, ATR.org, on X. Grover Norquist. Ms. Norquist, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Grover.
And coming up, we have the Speaker's Stump Speech with special guest, Congressman Bob Onder. And at 5:24, we'll speak with Dr. James Robbins, Dean of Academics at the Institute of World Politics. Wow, sounds heady there, Tim. I don't know if
fancy.
Very, very highbrow. Anything special we're going to talk about on Speaker's Stump Speech?
Well, I think Bob just texted both of us and said he just took off in an airplane. So you know what, Chris? How about I dig a little deeper into the cat fight at the Supreme Court?
All right. I love a good cat fight. Listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Never paint again with Rhino Shield. Listen to what a couple of happy customers have to say.
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted. Our building was really faded. You came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
What a wonderful job they did. It's beautiful. They were very thoughtful, kind, considerate guys. Appreciate all the work that these two young men did.
Call Rhino Shield, 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. The Trump administration has won a major legal victory at the Supreme Court. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
Justices ruled that individual judges lack the authority to grant nationwide injunctions, effectively blocking presidential executive orders. It's a big win for Donald Trump, whose agenda has faced multiple roadblocks from district judges. But the 6-3 Supreme Court ruling did not address the constitutionality of the president's restrictions on birthright citizenship. He wants to deny citizenship to U.S.-born children of people who are in the country illegally. Greg Clugston, the White House.
President Trump says the judges who were granting nationwide injunctions were throwing up obstacles to his agenda.
I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months, we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president.
Texas's Attorney General is praising a Supreme Court ruling upholding a state law aimed at blocking children from seeing pornography online. Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton said Friday companies have no right to expose children to pornography and must institute reasonable age verification measures. A lawyer says the Supreme Court's ruling that Maryland parents who have religious objections can pull their children from public school lessons using LGBTQ storybooks is a historic victory for parental rights. Lawyer Eric Baxter says kids shouldn't be forced into conversations about drag queens or gender transitions without their parents' permission. On Wall Street, record days with the Dow up by 432 points, the Nasdaq rose 105, the S&P advanced 32. More at townhall.com.
If you're living with pain, see how Relief Factor can help.
I'm an artist and I'm in my studio. I listen to the radio all day and I'm hearing the ads about Relief Factor. And I've got pain in my neck and it's getting worse. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go ahead and order this. 2 weeks later, I've got much better range of motion. If you're experiencing pain at a certain point in life, I would get Relief Factor.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to relieffactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Third day. The original members reunited for the 30th anniversary tour, playing all the hits. America! With special guest Zach Williams. Tickets available now at awakeningfoundation.com. Third day, the 30th anniversary tour.
You just call my name.
An Awakening Foundation event.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Watch for some heavy downpours, some flooding and ponding on roadways, certainly possible because of the heavy nature of some of this rain. It'll start to slide east-southeast by late evening, but through at least early evening, be prepared for some downpours scattered across the area. Then overnight, we dry things out, a low of 76, but a chance for a few storms tomorrow. Lower chance, though, 30% chance for an isolated downpour, a high of 92, heat index to 98. And then on Sunday, up to 60% chance for some of these scattered storms and a high of 90. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Reed's Rockets in Wright City has your fireworks. Try the Max 800 shot for a 30-minute show. Want the ultimate American celebration? Get This Is America with over 100 gigantic color bursts. Family owned and operated, Reed's caters for families with the biggest kid selection. Spend $100 or more and get a kids assortment free. Reed's Rockets, 425 West Service Road North in Wright City. Take I-70 exit 199 and look for the big red and white striped tent. Open through July 10th. ReedsRockets.com.
Reed's Rockets in Wright City has your fireworks. Try the Max 800 shot for a 30-minute show. Want the ultimate American celebration? Get This Is America with over 100 gigantic color bursts. Family owned and operated, Reed's caters for families with the biggest kid selection. Spend $100 or more and get a kids assortment free. Reed's Rockets, 425 West Service Road North in Wright City. Take I-70 exit 199 and look for the big red and white striped tent. Open through July 10th. ReedsRockets.com.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
News, analysis, opinion.
Federal agents are being attacked in the city of Los Angeles.
We have to get more people involved.
We're not going to let our country be torn apart.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Another blockbuster ruling on the final day of opinions for the term. This one concerns LGBTQ plus content in elementary school classrooms. The case stemmed from a lawsuit out of Maryland. The question at the heart of the case, do parents have the right to opt their children out of exposure to themed storybooks with that content? All on the grounds that it violates their First Amendment religious rights. The justices decided, yes, the parents can opt out their children. The conservative majority court ruled 6-3 along ideological lines.
And they did indeed. It was a wild, wild week here on the Supreme Court. And we'll see if we get any more decisions. I know technically, I guess next week's the final hand down week, but we've gotten a whole plethora of cases this week, Chris, that we've discussed, including some very volatile ones in which Amy Coney Barrett and Ketanji Brown Jackson traded barbs in the middle of the opinion itself.
You know, one thing that I would be very interesting for me is to read the opinion of the 3 justices who said it was okay that your child should be subjected to LGBTQ material without your consent. I would love to know their arguments for that.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that.
Seriously.
Somebody was talking about that earlier. I think it may have been on Tony's show, and he read a little snippet or two from it. Basically, one of them was trying to make the argument, a weak argument, that it's a slippery slope, that, oh my gosh, parents will be opting out of PE classes next, kind of making an illogical argument. But you ask a very good question. I will look at that dissent and see exactly what's the legal theory behind not letting parents decide, because we're not talking about physical education classes. We're not talking about art classes. We're talking about sexual ed,
morality.
And do these judges view all that as the same?
Yeah.
Whether I'm forced to take a pottery class or whether I'm forced to look at what or read who, those are two very different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess these liberal justices don't view the world that way, I guess.
No, I think they look at it as instead of giving parents a right, you're suppressing the LGBTQ community somehow. And that takes precedent over your parental rights.
Mm-hmm. And remember what they also think. They also think that the government knows best and that public school teachers know better how to rear your children than you do. That the state is the parent in their minds and never can do wrong.
An example of that is when these kids who are gender confused wear one type of clothing that identifies with their gender when they leave home, but when they get to school, they have gender closets where they can switch into the gender that they associate themselves with, and the teachers and the principals and administrators don't tell the parents about that at all.
Sounds like one of Joey's horror movies, I mean, can you believe that isn't that terrifying that exists, that they have these hidden closets where kids can, Joey can become Jane and Jane can become Joe. And, it's ridiculous. I'm dragging Joey into a lot of things, dragging Joey through the mud here. Indeed. He is here with us today. Oh, I just noticed he has his horror T-shirt on today. What is this? The Teenage Mutant? What are they doing? What is this? Jason meets the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Oh no, you remember Casey Jones, right, from the Ninja Turtles? He's the guy that wore the hockey mask and he had the hockey stick. And he beat the crap out of Raphael in that first one. But that's what this shirt is, the Ninja Turtles movie.
Okay, very good, very good.
Yeah, I was a senior in high school, and
I don't remember
1990 when that came out.
Yeah, see, I was in college, so. We were busy doing those things.
Mm-hmm.
Joey was watching Ninja Turtles.
Mm-hmm. He's a youngster.
You are going to review 2 present day movies for us, though, not at the end of the show, but in the last segment of the program.
Yeah, whenever Chris gives me. So if it's 2 minutes, we'll get it in. It does not matter.
5:45.
Your segment, that last segment is yours.
We're gonna make sure that you have plenty of it. Oh, speaking of the rest of the show, I'll do the speaker's stump speech in a moment. I'm gonna do a little twofer here because I want to tell a little story about mind over matter. I personally was I had a personal experience with myself proving that I can either be a mental midget or I can no short jokes. Or I can have mind over matter. In 2 weekends, I had 2 almost exact occurrences. One of them I did extremely horrible, and one I did extremely well. Of course, I'm talking about golf.
Mm-hmm.
But it also was an analogy I think you could transfer to other parts of life. And I'm going to give you a little further update on Ketanji Brown Jackson and Amy Coney Barrett tangling literally in the middle of one of these lengthy Supreme Court opinions. This one on whether or not a lower court can do an injunction on any presidential action and make it not just in that district, but all across the nation. So that'll be the speaker's stump speech in just a couple minutes here. At 5:25, we'll have Dr. James Robbins back on the program. He's the dean. This sounds way too highbrow,
very heady
for Chris, Joey, and I on a Friday afternoon, but I'm sure he will enlighten us, entertain us, and inform us. He is the Dean of Academics at the Institute of World Politics. Wow. We're going to talk about the ongoing situation in Iran. Where are we today on a Friday? It's amazing. Yeah, Trump calling this the 12-day war. Chris, we were in a very different situation last Friday in the Middle East than we are today. What does Dr. Robbins think about whether or not that tenuous truce will hold? And what's next in the region? He's done a lot of work in this area, and maybe he's got some speculation for us.
Love to hear it. My personal non-professional speculation, I think Iran has been humiliated. Their military has been humiliated. They may try some terrorist attacks in the West, but I think in terms of trying to exert military might in the region, I think that's diminished for quite a while now.
Boy, we sure hope so. And it sure seems like it because the world seems to be reacting positively. Even people who aren't fans of Trump are lauding him with all sorts of compliments. Everybody except CNN and MSNBC. Mm-hmm. Let's remind you what's coming up after us. Larry Connors. Yeah, Larry doesn't take Fridays off. Larry will be here at 6:05 p.m. And tonight begins, of course, our weekend programming. And do not, for many of you may just listen to us Monday through Friday, and that's fantastic. Thank you for that. But if you checked out our weekend programming, we have actual live, awesome weekend programming. It starts tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. with the good Dr. Randy Tobler, who you've gotten so used to. He is the voice of comfort on Saturday mornings. Very informative guy. Chris and I often appear on his show when he asks us to jump on, and it's a great program to kick off your weekends. We also have the Right Mind Show, which is so good, Joey. It's got 2 slots now on the weekends.
Name one guest that we've ever had on the show. I know you don't listen.
I do. You had the Battlehawks guy, didn't you?
Yeah, we had the guy who helped with the kicking. I guess he wasn't very good this year. That's why he hasn't been on for a while. No, we've got Dave Wassinger. He's somebody famous, I guess.
We know him.
Yeah, we've got Jamie Gregg, Representative Jamie Gregg.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a big political show this week. Usually they're boring when it's too many political people.
Wow. So we've got that. We've got Jeffco Patriot Radio. We have St. Charles Patriot Radio. We got Stand and Fight, Shall Not Be Infringed. We got such awesome program. The Outdoors Show. It's a lot of great stuff, and you should make sure you check it out because it starts tomorrow morning, goes all the way through the weekend. Great way to take us with you wherever you might be. And Chris, can you believe that next Friday is the 4th of July?
No, I can't believe that. Wow.
Yeah.
That is, for me, when I was in school, it seemed like the summer, once we got out, was going very, very slow, very leisurely. But after the 4th of July, that's when the weeks just seemed to fly by, and it was time to go back to school before you knew it. That was the cutoff. After 4th of July, it's like, it's downhill now. We'll be in school before you know it. Was it like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the hump, right?
Yeah.
You're like, 4th of July was always awesome and a lot of fun. You looked forward to it. And then you're right. When it was over, the next thing you had to look forward to was going back to school. That was around the corner.
I tell you what sucked for me for 4th of July. I used to get a whole lot of fireworks and pop off a whole lot of fireworks. And just that next morning when your mom's like, all right, take your butt out there and clean up that mess. Because we lived in a cul-de-sac and there would be just trash and paper everywhere. And you're like, boy, this was fun last night. But the next morning, having to clean up all of that crap, I hated it.
We're in a cul-de-sac now, so I do. That's what I do now. Yeah, it's a mess. But I think we're going down to Hillsboro this year. One of my buddies has a little lake house down there, so it'll be fun. All right. Hey, without further ado, let's get to today's speaker stump speech, a little cat fight and some mind over matter.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
All right, let me dispense with the legal stuff. Maybe you're all tired of hearing about all these court cases this week, but this was a big one, right? And I know many of you who could care less about the legal world. I know you're interested in a lot of the politics and public policy that come out of that. And this is a really good public policy position. And it's the right decision too, because, Chris and I, we've been talking to guests for 5 or 6 months, Zach Smith and some other lawyers and Susie Moore. And we're like, how is it possible? Like, where did this never used to be a thing, right? Never used to be a thing where a lower district court judge would issue an injunction and it would somehow apply to the entire country. And I as a lawyer, a recovering lawyer, thank you very much. Very happy about that. I couldn't get my mind around it either. I'm like, okay, well, because growing up and going to law school, I always heard about, there was always conflicts between districts and conflicts between circuits. And who decided that? The Supreme Court. One district didn't get to bind the rest of the country. The district could bind the district. And by the way, folks, judicial districts, they're pretty big. There's only, I think, 9 of them because we call it the Ninth Circus out there. The Ninth Circuit, that's California. So we affectionately call it the Ninth Circus. So they're pretty large, right? They cover, vast swaths of land, but they shouldn't be allowed to implicate the whole country. So anyway, today in that decision where the Supreme Court decided in a, you could call it a party line vote, maybe a philosophical line vote, because the judges don't like to be accused of being parts of parties, but there's definitely a philosophy on the court. In a philosophical line vote, the 6 originalist judges said, no, district court judges cannot bind entire country. And you know what? A lot of these decisions coming out of the court these days are pretty commonsensical. The whole thing about parents getting to decide whether or not their children are exposed to LGBTQ, XYZ stuff, and so on and so forth. In this opinion, though, and they're usually very big, lengthy opinions, and there's dissents and concurrences. They're usually gigantic tomes that law clerks have to read through. Associate Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the Federalist says today, has never been one to shy away from engaging in left-wing political activism on the bench. Now it appears some of her colleagues are growing tired of it. Oh, so this is a true catfight indeed. In its Friday ruling, nuking lower court's nationwide injunction against President Trump's birthright citizenship order, the high court's majority took a verbal flamethrower to Jackson's dissent, as if she were echoing the writing style of legacy media hacktivist, the wannabe Broadway star who struggled to understand a lot of issues that come before the court, dramatically declared that the majority's decision to permit the executive to violate the Constitution with respect to anyone who has not yet sued is an existential threat. Oh, she used the existential word. It's existential threat to the rule of law. Amy Coney Barrett, not to be cowed, she fought right back and did not mince words, while noting how the principal dissent authored by Sonia Sotomayor focuses on conventional legal terrain like the Judiciary Act of 1789 and cases on equity. Barrett highlighted how Jackson's dissent, quote, listen to this, chooses a startling line of attack that is tethered neither to these sources nor, frankly, to any doctrine whatsoever. She basically called her a dumb you-know-what in so many words, nicely, legally. More specifically, she underscored how her Democrat-appointed colleagues' expressed views on the power of the courts goes way beyond those even of judicial supremacists, those who believe judiciary is superior to other branches of government. Amy Coney Barrett says, waving away attention to the limits on judicial power as a mind-numbingly technical query, Jackson offers a vision of the judicial role that would make even the most ardent defender of judicial supremacy blush. In her telling, the fundamental role of courts is to order everyone, including the executive, to follow the law, full stop. She then went on to talk about how Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while hypocritically embracing, I added the word hypocritical, but it was hypocritical, while hypocritically embracing an imperial judiciary. Basically, Ketanji Brown Jackson doesn't like Trump, and she wants to be able to use the Supreme Court to, quote, trump him, but that's not how these things work. All right, so that's the court catfight there. Mind over matter. I had a real lesson in how, it's all important for all, all of us are limited by our physical abilities and limitations and things like that. But I think we often underestimate how much our minds play tricks on us, how much our minds talk us into not being able to do something. Even when faced with nearly the exact same set of circumstances, you can achieve greatly where maybe before you had failed. So, of course, a lot of my analogies go back to golf, but I think golf's a great allegory and analogy for life in general. A few weeks ago, I had to play a match, and it was against a buddy of mine, and we're pretty much evenly keeled, but he even admitted to me, he goes, he was like, I'm going to, do the best I can, but, you're playing a little better these days. Not that day. I played absolutely horribly. I had a lot in my head. There was a lot going on in the world. We were, in the middle of the war, and Chris is getting bombed over in Israel. So I'm thinking about that. And I'm thinking about, whether I'm going or not. And I'm thinking about some other things I had going on in life. I was so distracted, I could barely hit the ball straight. It was as if I had never picked up a club before. It was an epic disaster. I lost the match and I deserved to lose it. I go back out the very next week, same exact course, same exact equipment, same exact me. I didn't feel like I was any healthier or wiser. If anything, I was a week older, right? And I basically cleared my mind and I shot one of my best scores of the year. It was unbelievable. And just to give you an example, for those of you not familiar with golf, on the front nine in my massacre round, I shot a 52. Horrible, absolutely terrible. The very next week, I shot a 39 with 2 birdies on the front. Almost the same exact conditions. And that just shows you that mind over matter is a real thing. So whether you're working on a new career or a job or a sport thing or whatever, a lot of times you have to make sure that you yourself can believe that you can do something before you can actually pull it off. You may have all the physical acumen and agility in the world. You may have all the brain power you need, but if you don't believe you can do it, and if you don't believe in yourself, you're probably going to fail no matter how good your equipment is, no matter how much you've prepared, if you don't believe you can pull it off. It was a real lesson to me because it was two situations right next to each other, same time, place, manner, and two very, very different results. So if you're working on something and you're trying to pull something off and you want to give yourself a boost, tell yourself, make yourself have the confidence knowing that you can do it, and then you likely will do it. So that's the speaker stump speech for today. Yeah.
Excellent advice there. A little self-image psychology. I love it.
Yeah, and there's the cat fight sound that Joey just played. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Sometimes, when you worry too much and you got too much going on in your head and you don't just execute on something, you're probably not going to pull it off if you don't believe you can do it. So there you have it.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Chris, it's 5:24.
No way.
We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back with this very erudite fellow that we've been talking about, this Dr. James Robbins. We're going to talk to him about the developing situation in Iran and the greater Middle East writ large. When Chris and I return on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Hey, I just want to say to all you other drivers out there, if you smell a delicious, crispy smell after the race, it's not your tailpipe. It's a little bit of shake and then bake. Shake and bake.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Watch for some heavy downpours, some flooding and ponding on roadways, certainly possible because of the heavy nature of some of this rain. It'll start to slide east-southeast by late evening, but through at least early evening, be prepared for some downpours scattered across the area. Then overnight, we dry things out, a low of 76, but a chance for a few storms tomorrow. Lower chance, though, 30% chance for an isolated downpour, a high of 92, heat index to 98. And then on Sunday, up to 60% chance for some of these scattered storms and a high of 90. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey, everybody, it's your buddy Todd Showalter from the Right Mind Show, along with my buddy Joey V. And remember, we're not on just Saturdays at 5. Now we're on Sundays at 2.
Putting the fun in our dysfunctional world. It's the Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter.
Now, despite what I just told you about the whole mind over matter thing, which is critical and key, you do have to have your body up to performance as well. You can't have just a broken down shell and will yourself into just, leaping over tall buildings in a single bound. You got to have the right equipment, and the right equipment comes with having your body, first of all, in the right shape. If you're suffering from nagging aches and pains, chronic or acute injuries, I got the one-stop shop for you. It's Comprehensive Chiropractic. And, just for general maintenance, sometimes I'm just going in just to make sure everything's tuned up and ready to rock and roll, because Comprehensive Chiropractic and Sports Performance is the premier sports performance and chiropractic facility in our region. People come from near and far because the doctors there, Doctors Fader and Gorman and Benton and the others, are so awesome and have helped not only myself, but I've seen excellent results from many of my family members as well. Everybody from my father and father-in-law to my young daughters, who are incredibly awesome athletes, and my wife and everybody in between. We all go to Comprehensive Chiropractic because it keeps us up to snuff. They have the studio, Health and Wellness Center, upstairs at Comprehensive Chiropractic. The chiropractic is the building block, right? Then that's so key and critical. But then you can add other items to that, like the Studio Health and Wellness Center with their awesome Pilates, yoga, and other classes. Certified, experienced instructors, that's all that's there. And they have small classes with personal attention. They have awesome licensed massage therapists, massage therapy. Yep, it's wonderful. It feels great. It also helps rebuild the muscle tissue as well as the skeletal structure that you need with the chiropractic. Do you have knee pain, joint pain? I had some horrible elbow pain, and now I'm touching my elbow right now. It is gone. It is absolutely gone. It was a real nagging injury. It was like that a golfer's elbow or tennis elbow, just horribly painful tendonitis kind of stuff. They fixed it lickety-split, did a little acupuncture, did a little shockwave therapy. Really fantastic. They got really cool high-tech stuff there, in addition to, like I said, the chiropractic building block foundational stuff as well. They're at cchiropractic.com. It's a one-stop shop. It's holistic. They can help you with your nutritional needs, rebuild your entire building structure if you need it, because they got personal trainers as well. They got everything. Check them out. Please tell them I sent you. Comprehensive Chiropractic. Chiropractic.com. Chiropractic.com. Comprehensive Chiropractic for all your comprehensive healthcare needs.
Love spending time outdoors, but hate the bugs? This year's tick problem is worse than ever. Don't let mosquitoes, ticks, gnats, and chiggers ruin your family fun. Mosquito Joe delivers effective pest control that's guaranteed to protect your family and pets. No long-term contract, and we handle all the scheduling for you. Mosquito Joe is winning the battle against bugs. Get your free estimate today by calling 1-855-ASK-A-JOE. That's 1-855-ASK-A-JOE. Mosquito Joe, we make the outdoors fun again.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that. The stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that because you can get all the information you need to understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
And listen anytime, anywhere. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Are you certain none of that highly enriched uranium was moved?
Of course, we're watching every single aspect. But Jennifer, you've been about the worst, the one who misrepresents the most intentionally. What the president says. I'm familiar.
I take issue with that.
I appreciate you acknowledging that this was the
issues.
first the most successful mission based on operational security that this department has done since you've been here. And I appreciate that.
Wow. Chris, former Fox News colleagues going at it there. I didn't know there was some bad blood apparently between Jennifer Griffin and Pete Hegseth.
Well, they're on opposite sides of the field there, and I guess he's got to protect his turf, and she feels she has to protect hers, past relationships notwithstanding.
Yeah, it almost seems like there's something else going on there, but I haven't heard of anything, so maybe everybody just got their dander up, so to speak.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, indeed.
They're really good, actually. Trump and Hegseth have been just going after the media. Like clip 3 is like the similar thing, just yelling at the fake news.
Okay, so clip 3 is so that's more Trump and Hegseth going after the media here.
Yeah, this is a different reporter, but let's listen
different reporter.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear this one.
The instinct of CNN, the instinct of the New York Times is to try to find a way to spin it for their own political reasons, to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak. So if you want to make an assessment of what happened at Fordo, you better get a big shovel.
But you're not disputing the report said what it said, even though it was initial.
The report said what it said, and it was fine. It was severe. You should be proud, especially you, should be proud of those pilots, and you shouldn't be trying to demean them.
No,
Those pilots flew at great risk, a big chance that they'd never come back home and see their husbands or their wives.
Wow, just taking apart these reporters, indeed. And that's after, and that's the thing. It sounds like CNN and MSNBC are on an island, because when you've got the Iranians themselves admitting that as much as they were going to admit that the operation was hurtful to them, and you've got the IAEA, the UN, which is really no friend of the U.S., and you've got the NATO general all praising the United States of America for doing this, and then CNN and MSNBC are over here acting like this was no big deal and maybe we didn't accomplish anything. We sent 6 Megatron bombs right into these sites. So I don't know what they want us to do. Take them on a bus ride over there. I mean, I don't know how to prove anything else.
I think the media understands that traditionally, whenever an American president uses military force, and especially if it's successful, the president gets a bump up in popularity. And I think that's what they are afraid of. They have been wishing for the past 6 months that the economy crashes. They're hoping that happened because of tariffs. We haven't seen that. And so this is one more thing that could buck the president up in his popularity. And that's why they have to crap on it every minute that they can.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that, because in the business world today, business news, there was some more positive financial news that came out. The markets responded favorably to that. The Dow was up another 430 points today. The NASDAQ was upward of 100. They're both knocking on the door of all-time highs. Inflation continues to come down. They're talking about a Fed rate cut maybe in July. You're right, Chris. I mean, with this, it seems like it doesn't matter who it is. If it's a Republican president and they're having success, some in the national media just can't seem to handle it.
Yeah, I think that's naturally built in, but I just think with this president, it's just to a whole another level. It's TDS. They absolutely detest this man. And I think what really bothers them is the fact that they've tried to impeach him twice. He's had all of these trials, literally trials and tribulations, and he has beat all of them. And that just drives them mad. Man even escaped a death threat by millimeters. And it's like, what do we have to do? I'm sure that's what they're thinking.
Indeed.
Trump was talking about how dangerous his job is.
Yeah.
He's like, just being me is more dangerous than if you're a race car driver.
I mean, he's had two threats on his life during the campaign. People forget about that second one.
Clip one.
It is a dangerous business. What I do is a dangerous business. I tell the story of the car companies and different people in different professions. You have race car drivers, as an example. 1/10 of 1% die. Bull riders, 1/10 of 1%. That's not a lot, but it's people die. When you're president, it's about 5%. If somebody would have told me that, maybe I wouldn't have run.
That's right. He's right.
Where does he get that?
Well,
fact
there's been 47 presidents, and several have been assassinated. And if you count the attempts on their lives, it's probably about 5% or more, actually.
I think he made it up. It may be accurate, but it sounds
I think that's marketing for F1, the movie. Brad Pitt, he may die at the end. We don't know.
Exactly.
Well, and speaking about how dangerous the world is, he's right about that. That's for sure.
Yes.
I never thought I'd read this headline. Our Pentagon has established 2 militarized zones. Guess where? In our country, along the southern border. That's how bad. And again, the media has whitewashed this and tried to cover it up. It is so bad. And I feel bad for all those ranchers and farmers down there whose lives have been turned upside down. We actually have militarized zones being established, new ones, brand new ones, along the U.S.-Mexico border to support enforcement efforts against illegal border crossings, because during the Biden years, like never before, the cartels were so emboldened that they basically set up camp and they were controlling the border and we weren't.
And if you remember, too, Eagle Pass there, the local government there would not enforce the law. And so President Trump had to basically deputize and make that land federal land so they could put troops down there to protect that part of the border.
Hey, I had another legal story for you. This is not a court decision, but Remember how we were talking weeks ago about how Trump was going to start using the courts to his benefit and suing people over some of the fake news stories and all that. So, Chris, remember the big to-do about the Kamala Harris interview at 60 Minutes, and they redid the script and all that? Trump brought suit on that, and a special master was assigned to the case to try to get them to work it out. The special master has advised CBS News, in his opinion, that they should pay $20 million in damages for their fraudulent reporting.
And Paramount, CBS, they are willing to pay that. They've been in arbitration with them for a long time. I think what they are worried about, and what some of the law firms are worried about, that if they pay that, then it's in a sense kind of a bribe. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago when they were in settlement talks, that they were concerned, and law firms were concerned, this could be a bribe to Trump to get out of being prosecuted. So
I just wonder how many
sticky situations.
I wonder how many tens of millions they're going to have to pay to start, not reporting fake news anymore. And in a final story today on what did happen in Iran, courtesy of our big, beautiful bombs that Donald Trump had dropped on them, New York Post reporting today that the UN nuclear watchdog, okay, so this is not us, this is not the U.S., this is not the Israelis. This is the UN nuclear watchdog. They have determined that the Fordo centrifuges are no longer operational. So that's good news. What happens long term, we don't know. If the mullahs don't go anywhere and remain in power, I'm sure they're going to be back at hating Israel and the U.S. and trying to build nuclear weapons. But for now, the Fordow uranium enrichment plant is no longer operational. It has been, as Donald Trump has been saying, obliterated.
And you don't have to be a military expert or anything to figure out that that's probably what happened. Just use your common sense. The United States dropped 3 or 4 36,000-pound bombs that are designed to penetrate mountains for 200 feet first, and then it explodes.
Yes.
So a weapon like that, it's never been used in war before. A weapon like that, it's going to do major, major damage to that lab. You don't have to be a military expert to know that. And I've heard reports that the pilots that dropped this weapon, and they did it at night, of course, said the explosion was so bright, it seemed like it was daytime. That's how bright that explosion was. Now, you drop something like that on a mountain, that facility is destroyed. Give me a break, Edie.
Common sense, because it's almost as if they're arguing it didn't happen. It's like they're truthers.
Show us. No, we want pictures inside the mountain showing the rubble inside of the lab. Then we'll believe it.
Did we really walk on the moon? Did the World Trade Center really collapse? It's like, did they really drop the bombs in Iran? You're basically arguing that they didn't drop the bombs where they said they dropped the bombs, is what you're arguing.
They weren't effective.
Right. A 30,000-pound bomb. Not just one, 6 of them in 3 different locations.
And don't forget, they're not just dropping that bomb on the mountain. It burrows 200 feet into the mountain first before it explodes.
Yes. And the great thing about Donald Trump is he doesn't just do it a little bit of the way. He does it all the way. And remember, Chris, for good measure, he sent 30 Tomahawk missiles.
Yeah.
Which any one of those would eradicate probably the city of St. Louis. He sent 30 Tomahawk missiles on top of those.
All right, what is 200 feet? Is that about 20? Is that 20 stories or so, roughly?
I would think
something.
So, yeah.
Just imagine.
Well, so normal building, 8 feet, right? 8 foot for a floor, 8 feet, 8 foot ceiling.
I don't know. It's hard to fathom for me, just a bomb that just penetrates 200 feet
Chris,
before it explodes.
I would say
that's amazing.
I would say that's 30 stories.
Really?
About 20, 25, 30 stories.
Yeah. That's amazing to me.
It really is indeed. All right. We got to get out of this, Chris, because we got to get to movie reviews.
All
Joey's
right.
got 2 of them. It is 5:42 in the PM. We'll be back.
We do have Dr. Jim. I have no problem ceding my time to him. Whatever you guys recommend, We'll
talk about it. We'll talk about it in the break. All right.
No problem.
5:42 in the PM. We got one more segment for you. Stay right here. We'll be right back after this at 101.9 94.1. The Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Happy freaking Friday.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Slam that
to me. No, he didn't slam you. He didn't bump you. He didn't nudge you. He rubbed you. And rubbing, son, is racing.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Watch for some heavy downpours, some flooding and ponding on roadways, certainly possible because of the heavy nature of some of this rain. It'll start to slide east-southeast by late evening, but through at least early evening, be prepared for some downpours scattered across the area. Then overnight, we dry things out, a low of 76, but a chance for a few storms tomorrow. Lower chance, though, 30% chance for an isolated downpour, a high of 92, heat index to 98. And then on Sunday, up to 60% chance for some of these scattered storms and a high of 90. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Vic for Vets Honoree of the Day.
Today we honored Specialist Corporal David Bixler, submitted by Christopher Slater. Thanks for listening, Christopher, and thank you as well. We'll see you all with Vic on Monday.
The Vic Berzelli Show, weekdays 9 to noon on News Talk STL.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Attention all gun enthusiasts. Don't miss the big Franklin County Gun Show happening July 11th through 13th at Washington, Missouri's Elks Lodge. With over 450 tables of pistols, handguns, rifles, long guns, shotguns, ammo, and more. The fun starts Friday, July 11th at 4 and continues all weekend. Admission just $10 and good for the entire weekend. Gets 1200 get in free with discounts for veterans and first responders. The big Franklin County Gun Show at the Washington, Missouri Elks Lodge the weekend of July 11th. More info at bkpromotions.us.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
.545 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. It is June 27th. Joy, does the official summer movie season start July 4th, but does it start now because it's officially summer?
You know, what was the big movie summer opening movie? I would say it was Mission Impossible is when people really got excited. But obviously, you know, summer begins June 21st. But yeah, I think once Mission Impossible plopped, it was summer movie season. Big blockbuster season had begun.
All right. 546. You got two movies. You got a lot of time. Let's do it.
Baby, what movie are you playing?
We got two. We got two big movies.
Two movies.
We got Megan Part 2, Megan 2.0, and we've got F1 Registered Trademark Circle Sign, the movie. That's the official title. And I know everyone wants to hear about F1, so let's do that one second so that people have to stay listening longer. I mean, that's a good tease. So let me play the trailer.
Everybody wants to hear about Brad Pitt these days.
Exactly.
Let me play the trailer for Megan 2.0 here.
I think we can agree that my biggest mistake was that I cared too much.
Actually, the biggest mistake you made was murdering 4 people and a dog.
All right, I'm gonna put this in terms you can understand. I'm not the only killer robot. Amelia's stronger than you can imagine. And she's coming after anyone who can stop her. Including you, Gemma. Which, you know, bummer. But to get to you, she'll kill everyone you love, including Katie.
Whoa!
Hold on to your vaginas.
What? Wait a minute.
Can't say that.
What?
So let me tell you, the first movie, Megan, was a horror film, straight up horror film. I mean, it was PG-13 horror, but I saw the unrated version on Stars.
Okay.
So I only saw the unrated version, and it was a lot of fun. This woman, Allison Williams, she's Brian Williams' daughter. You probably recognize her from Girls and the Get Out movie. she's a toy designer. She designs this robot with AI for her niece, and the robot goes crazy, protective, kills bullies. And the great thing about Megan 1 was the kills.
Okay.
There was one with a power washer where the doll rips this lady's face off with a power washer.
Wow.
And that's what I was hoping to get. With Megan 2.0, they changed the entire genre.
No.
And it becomes a spy movie. So a military company buys all the tech behind Megan, and they can send in their own robot to kill Saudis and rescue payloads and that stuff. And
so it becomes like the Terminator almost.
It's exactly the Terminator. That's the problem. It's a little too derivative because, Terminator 1, Arnold's the bad guy. Terminator 2, he becomes the good guy.
So Megan becomes a good...
So Megan becomes like a good guy
Hatchet
who has to
woman?
protect a little child from a bad robot that's got AI on its mind.
Oh, okay. So they changed the whole thing.
Yeah, and because I saw it in theater, it was PG-13. So I would say wait until the unrated version of Megan 2 comes out because then they'll add more gore. But the problem is it's still 2 hours long. The first one was 20 minutes shorter. So this one's 2 hours and it just got a little too derivative. I mean, there's so many RoboCop references and Short Circuit references. And if you heard the trailer when she said, hold on to your vagina.
Yeah, what's up with that?
It's pretty campy too. So like 13-year-old boys and the gays are really going to love this movie. I mean, there's one joke that made me groan so bad where Megan is in this AI conference and her partners are over the walkie-talkie saying, get down. And she's like, get down. And then she starts dancing on stage.
Oh, no.
So what's the age range for this movie? Is it for everyone? Is it for the adolescent set?
We call these movies like baby's first horror film. Like Five Nights at Freddy's and this one, it's PG-13, but you're not going to really see any gore. But if you have never seen any other horror film yet, this may be a fun place to start. But it's all karate, which is not really the gore that I'm looking for. I'm thinking of power washers.
Gore, man.
Yeah, I'm thinking of power washers. When you go around and doing neck snaps on everybody, that's not as exciting. And the little girl in this is obsessed with Steven Seagal, so that's kind of a weird campy thing as well. She takes karate classes, and
so unless you're a certain age, you're not going to get a lot of these jokes, right?
I think so. That may be one of the problems, but I still give it 3 out of 5 stars.
All right, that's pretty good for you.
It is fun, but not the horror film that I was looking for.
And of course, the all-important question, how long is the movie?
It's 2 hours. The first one was an hour 40, so that extra 20 minutes was not needed, I would say.
All right.
All right, now here's the one that
All right,
everyone's
this
excited
is
about.
F1.
F1, registered trademark circle sign, the movie. You have to say the whole thing.
Like Prince the artist?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
And Ethan, the sales guy, and Larry's producer, Quentin, huge F1 fans. They talk about F1 every single day. It's insane.
Do they really? Well,
I think of tornadoes when I hear F1.
Well, Ethan basically has an F1 that he drives to the office every day.
Of course. I think of keyboards. If I were to rank my favorite keyboard-based movies, I'd put 7 up there first.
That's a terrifying movie.
And then M, that one was pretty good. I haven't seen F9. Have you guys Fast
No.
and Furious 9? Yeah,
No.
so
No, I don't.
So we'll see.
Saw like one of those movies.
So let me play the trailer for F1 and
Okay.
see if
All right.
you get chills. Oh, I know you're gonna get chills.
See, like straight talk.
Straight as an arrow. No sugar.
We all lose our jobs if you can't pull off a miracle.
No pressure.
The only question here is, why did Sonny Hayes come back to F1?
I think it's really wonderful that Apex are giving second chances to the elderly.
It's all right. You're just worried I'm quicker than you.
How do you think I'd feel if you die on the track? 3 laps to lifetime.
Wow.
I got goosebumps.
Dramatic. So let me ask you this question. Are the ladies going to still like Brad Pitt? Has he held up over all these years?
Oh, of course. He's dreamy as heck. He's still doing the Cliff Booth performance that he won the Oscar for from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Where he's just like barely acting, but he's so cool you can't even.
It doesn't
argue
matter.
with
He's
it.
just too cool for school. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you guys, do you care about Formula One?
I watch it if there's like nothing else on TV.
I enjoyed Ford versus Ferrari.
Yeah.
Do you know all the rules of Formula One?
No.
All right. I don't know if you're going to like this movie.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
This
Too
thing
complicated?
It is nothing but racing. My goodness. When it starts, they're halfway through the season and they come up to Brad Pitt and they're like, we got 9 races left. And I say, oh, okay, that's fine. They show you all 9 races
wow.
in a row with the generic sports theme where like, will he, won't he?
Right.
He did some dirty rule, but no one really knows the rules. So he got away with it. it's like that over and over, and it gets exhausting.
So Ethan and Quentin could sit around and argue about this movie because they would understand what's going on, right? None of the rest of us would.
And because we're Americans, we don't know the rules. They have a British announcer yelling in your ear the whole time, like, "Oh my God, he just hit the sign, and now he's caused a caution to come out on the." It's that for 2.5 hours. This thing does not need to be that long.
So what's the plot? Is there like an underlying love theme plot somewhere in there? Is he like a washed up driver? This is his last chance for the big time. What's the plot?
How'd you guess that from the
I
entire,
just
look
guess.
at you.
It's very good.
Joey,
Hollywood.
Joey, there's no originality. There's no originality in Hollywood.
I know Tim will know this. Have you seen Ted Lasso? It is.
I watched it. Yeah,
it's the exact plot of Ted Lasso.
Okay.
Folks, the American athlete is
Okay.
recruited to the UK to help lead a ragtag team for a sport that Americans don't give a flip about, while dealing with younger teammates and a blonde lady boss and English reporters that are up his butt the whole time.
Boy, that sounds vaguely familiar.
That's Ted Lasso right there. Thank goodness Brad Pitt doesn't have a mustache, though.
So, Joey, is there a love interest in this movie or not?
There's got to be a love interest.
It has to be with Brad
Pitt in it.
Yeah. The lady in the trailer is like, she's the technical director. First female technical director in F1.
Cutting edge.
Boy.
Okay.
Now, I really recommend seeing this because it was filmed in IMAX on the biggest screen possible, as close as possible. I saw it on a giant screen, and the camera work is incredible that they do with this. You do feel like you're in the car. It's just like Top Gun Maverick, where you feel like you're in the plane flying with them.
A lot of AI in it.
No, I mean, these are real drivers, and they actually followed the tour of Formula One. That's why there's the registered trademark. Formula One is all in on this. So the crowds are full of real people that were there for the races. Biggest F1 driver, do you know? 5 seconds?
I don't.
Lewis Hamilton. He's a producer on this movie, and he stars in it as well.
Okay.
So it's exactly what you want from a Formula One movie. It's so realistic, but just the generic sports movie thing is beaten to the ground where you don't care anymore.
All right. I'm ignorant. What is Formula One exactly? Are they driving through the streets of Monaco and stuff? Is that Formula One?
Yeah.
Driving through the streets.
There was a big race here in America where they shut down all of Las Vegas. And that is in the movie as well. You see the spheres, they're driving by. I think there was a big problem with that. Like one of the sewer lids came off during the race in Las Vegas, and some people died. I don't think they died. But it was a big to do. How nobody showed up to Las Vegas because there were delays. And
I know it's different racing, so nobody yell at me. But I know it's different racing with different cars. But it sounds like the serious version of Talladega Nights.
You're considered the greatest driver in the world if you win at Formula One, because these guys go like 250 miles an hour, and they used to die all the time. Like Senna is one of the famous people that died. So they added these weird halos that go around their head now. So a lot less people die.
Oh, really?
It's 3 stars out of 5 for me.
All right.
But definitely see this one in the theater, though.
Okay, why didn't it get 3.5? Why only 3?
It's just the generic plot of the old guy being ribbed by the young guy. And just like I said, it's the sports thing over and over. And you have to deal with that for 9 races. You know, nobody listens to what the boss says. It's what Brad Pitt says under his breath. He's like, how about we just go fast? Then everyone says, oh, yeah, that's a great pep talk. Thank you.
That's a great plan.
But Javier Bardem and Brad Pitt have great chemistry together.
So what are the initial early reviews of it? We know yours is the most important, of course. What is Rotten Tomatoes and all of that? What are they saying?
They say if you're a dude and you're a dad, you're going to love it.
You're going to love it.
And if you're a chick, you're probably getting dragged along. But, Brad Pitt still has that charisma, so good for them. But this movie was like $300 million to film. Double that to advertise. I don't know if it's going to make its money back, but it's Apple. Apple made this movie, so who cares, right?
Yeah. Talk about for just a second. I know we're running out of time, but Mission Impossible, that was a flop?
Just for how expensive it was. And that one was 3 hours long. So I bet when it does come out on Paramount Plus, I bet you'll watch it in pieces and take bathroom breaks and take dinner breaks.
That surprised me a little because we may go see that this week.
I enjoyed it. The first half was better than the second half, but I thought Final Reckoning was decent enough.
I see Jurassic World on Monday, so hopefully that's better.
Jurassic World.
That's Joy's movie reviews every Friday. Today was a twofer. Coming up is Larry Connors USA. He's going to talk with Hans von Spakovsky on how 3 justices could defend showing porn to children. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great weekend.
Getting new flooring can be exciting, or it can be a hassle. To make sure you have a great experience, use Michael's Flooring, like I did. Hi, it's Susie Moore, and Michael's Flooring has become my go-to for quality, variety, and an all-around great experience. They've been locally owned and operated for more than 30 years. Carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, natural stone, luxury vinyl, it doesn't matter.